For people who don't know Algolia, like what do you guys do?
Sure. So we are a hosted search engine. So we would help websites, mobile apps like Twitch, Medium, Periscope to deliver a great search experience. So let's say Google educated all of us, you, me, to expect such a great experience when you are searching. Super fast, super relevant. But when you are a developer in your own web app, people expect that from you, but how to do that? I mean, it's super complex, super difficult. So that's where we can help them become successful, become the new heroes there, so that they can deliver on that promise.
Right, and so it's like for anybody with as a website, like an e-commerce site, an application, and they want to have that search box and deliver that search, they just do it with Algolia, and they get to keep the data and all that, right? And they get to control all that.
We're really an API,
right.
So the data belongs to our customers. We're not crawling or anything. It's really an API where they will push their data and just send the queries.
Makes sense. And so you guys have been growing like crazy, right? And so what data points can you give us? It seemed like you're everywhere, and I see you in more and more places on more and more websites and apps. So, but what does that look like from the inside?
Yeah, sure. We are a bit more than 4 years old. We actually launched the product in September 13. And since then, we have grown to more than 2,300 customers in 100 countries. We are serving 20 billion queries every month today. So we've been super successful on this one, so that was cool.
And on a very small staff too, right?
Yeah, we are reaching 85 people now. So we are pretty efficient, I would say, compared to the market. Right. We already doubled from last year, right. Same date.
Yeah, so that's kind of crazy. So how do you track growth? I mean, of course, everybody looks at ARR and wants the ARR to grow, but what deeper metrics do you use to know whether or not you're growing well, or you're growing as fast as you could be growing?
So ARR still, of course. No, more precisely, I would say new ARR is more important than actually monitoring just ARR. It's just the delta that's important here, because you want that delta to grow too, so that you get that exponential curve. And so we will track very closely that new business that we can add up every month, every quarter. And then you get the traditional suspects, like the churn, all about retention, upsells. Of course, when you have this negative churn, it's super good position to be, because, it's SaaS, it compounds and helps you to get successful, even if you cannot land that many new deals.
Right, and you mentioned earlier that you also look at stuff like NPS, right, to see how fast you're growing. And I thought that was such a good reflection of how organic, in some ways, your business is, right? How much kind of the bottom of the funnel almost informed a lot about how you're going to grow and how much your product is going to spread inside a company or to other companies through referrals and everything else, as opposed to trying to attract just completely new business, which I know a lot of startups do. So let's talk about that a little bit. How did your product grow, and why is so much of your growth coming from those bottom of the funnel metrics as opposed to top of the funnel?
I would say that was our strength at first. Really, the product, the quality of not only the product, like the software, but also the interaction that our customers would have with the team. We really cared about making them successful, and that's really how we got to get successful at first. And there, NPS is kind of a super good indicator. You want leading indicator, indicators that are going to help you predict the future. Mm-hmm. And NPS is a super good one. So we are between 60, 70 NPS today. That means that we have a lot of second order revenues coming from people recommending us, coming back when they change company. And that's really helpful to grow a community, a user base that's going to follow you year after year.
And that's also to be very capital efficient. Yeah, it's all also about that capital efficiency, right? So if you have so much of the referral and to some extent the product selling itself, which is never true, but if a lot of that happens, then that could explain why you can stay at just 85 people and still have the success and the reach you have.
But then you want to increase that growth even more, and at some point this organic growth is super nice. But how can you go faster? And that's where you want to experiment with new things. We have a very good sales efficiency, but completely ready also to get it a bit lower for the sake of new experiments to grow the lead gen. So we started to do more outbound, for example, lately, but keeping that only for enterprise strategic accounts. Developers, they don't like outbound, so let's avoid that, but that could work there. We're opening new offices, so a lot of new experiments like that hopefully will help us to grow the top of the funnel. and that will then increase our revenue.
Right. So you want to start from that organic base, right, and find more ways to grow faster, right? And I think it's so important to have that mindset of experimenting and looking at different things that may or may not work, tracking all the indicators you can, and having that mindset that it's not just about like mistakes and stuff you could improve, but like brand new things that you're not doing, right? And growth that you're robbing yourself of by not doing outbound, by not doing expansion.
You don't know what you don't know. And yeah, of course, you need to keep that agility to be able to explore new things, and you need to be able to fail. But it's because you are going to do 10 experiments that one of them is going to work so well, you are going to double down, and then it's going to become like the key of your future success.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. But so what are some of those failures? What are some of the things that didn't work? Like stuff you were doing you had to stop, or stuff that maybe you thought was going to be great but didn't end up working so well?
So many things. You know, I would say like the usual one is always around people. We should have hired faster. That's always I mean, better be safe than sorry, but we could have probably grown faster if we had been more aggressive at building some of the key like functions. I was thinking about marketing, for example. It took us a long time to really staff up our marketing team, which was like a shame in the sense that it was a missed opportunity there. But on the other hand, it actually may have had some positive impact. Because we didn't have any marketing, we like the nice thing is that everyone had to do marketing. Given our audience, our community are developers and we are developers, we could count on our team to explore, to do some hacks, to really do marketing to developers much better. Today, we are going up market, much more enterprise customers, and that approach may not work as well. So it's kind of like finding the right balance, and like more typical marketing is super important for us now.
Right. Yeah. You know, I think we in startups we tend to underestimate the value of experience. We're like, oh, we're doing things very different, we're brand new, we're changing things, but there's a lot of value in stuff, and a lot of stuff, not all of it, but a lot of it does work, even if it's been the same for 10 years, 20 years, and so I think it's always like something you have to be careful of, not cargo culting, not just doing stuff that's been done before, but also not neglecting the value of like following standard models, right?
And to learn from your peers. I mean, so many other people have done that before. It's never the same, and so you need to be able to adapt to your own situation, because simply copy-pasting what's worked elsewhere is not going to work. It's never working. However, not ignoring what's happened next elsewhere is worse. And you are speaking of failures. Actually, failures are even more important here, because if you do something and nobody else did that before, maybe that was because someone tried and failed. So
you got to be careful. But it makes sense, right? Like that focus on NPS and lowering the churn and kind of having that base of organic business, and then that view to kind of experiment, try things that have been tried before, try things that's never been tried before, but having that framework of measuring whether or not they're impacting your leading indicator of growth, I think that's kind of the gold way really to get like fast growth in SaaS. So that makes a ton of sense to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.